The History of Vin. Author, Art. 1,000 years after the downfall of Tremar, the already unstable political situation in Nehrim was shaken even more. The war between Quebec and Erethin began, and the oppressed lands was further torn apart. For over 1,000 years, millions had been dying for the same countries. After the banishment of the gods following Eridan's death, Naradsul Oranthial took over the reign of Nehrim at first. Then after his imprisonment, Chancellor Baratheon, even though the gods had had great interest in winning the land back for themselves the whole time. On an uncertain day before the outbreak of the war, a child was born to unknown parents. Although his home Ledur was ruined in the war, and his parents killed, wait, that's about me. On a certain day before the outbreak of the war, a child was born to unknown parents. Although her home Ledur was ruined in the war, and her parents killed, this child was brought to Terran Abbey, which was located in a remote spot, in the great forest of Faldrintal, so she could grow up there as an orphan. Nobody would have suspected this orphan to become one of the land's greatest and oldest legends many years later. Many would fail, she would be God among people. The orphan was subject to the imperious upbringing of the monks in the abbey, and didn't see anything of the world that lay further than the monks let her go. Being of a lower class, she entered the mage's order of Merzul as a simple scholar, completely unaware of the role in history she had yet to play. She witnessed the destruction of the order by Baratheon's henchman, who was acting stubborn by the gods who gave him false information in order to overthrow Merzul, who could do nothing against Baratheon's unleashed power. The orphan, the sole survivor, was able to escape. She fought her way to the mountain monastery, where an old friend of the order, Callisto, was living a life away from the war. With Callisto's help, the orphan managed to find information in the ruined city of Tremar about the secret place where the gods had imprisoned Naradsul Oranthial back in the day. At the same time, she discovered the missing star map of the Star People in the depths of Tremar. However, Baratheon had his men follow the orphan, and it did not take long for his henchmen to attack the mountain monastery as well. The orphan had to flee through the ancient tunnels of the dwarves, the Daramith galleries, where she presented the Star People with their much-longed star map. After her escape, the orphan managed to enter the city of Quebec. She joined forces with the rebels there, whom Baratheon was also fighting, and with them she freed the city of the besiegers. After that, she continued her actual mission, to free Naradsul Oranthial, who wanted to banish Baratheon and the gods from Vin, and fulfill the predestination of the Tel Imalthad, a god announced by the stars who was to equilibrate the world again. After she sneaked into Baratheon's palace, the orphan managed to find Oranthial's prison and free him from his chains. Together with Oranthial, she freed the mountain monastery of the besiegers and overthrew Chancellor Baratheon, thus releasing Nehrim from a centuries-long era of slavery and oppression. After the fall of the Chancellor, Oranthial sent the orphan to recover the prophecy of the Tel Imalthad from the old Temple of the Creator. In doing so, the orphan had a chance to enter the small circle of people who knew about the predestination of fate. After the predestination was recovered, Oranthial's fight for freedom began in Ostian, where the totalitarian rule of belief had made its home. The orphan was successful there too, and freed the people of Ostian, while Oranthial managed to spy out the gods in order to fulfill his long-cherished wish to become the Tel Imalthad. Immediately after that, Oranthial's battle against the gods began. He sent the orphan to retrieve one of the ancient and powerful weapons from the Temple of Tirat, like the sword Soulflayer Oranthial himself had, for only with such a weapon could the fight against the gods be victorious. Then they both confronted the gods and killed 4 of them, Izara, Malphas, Saldrin, and Morala. As they came across Tyr and Irlanda, Irlanda revealed to Neradzu Aranthiel that he was her son. As a descendant of the gods, he had divine blood running through his veins, which made it impossible for him to fulfill the predestination of the Tel Imalthad. The banished seraphim Art took the chance and killed Aranthiel, while Tyr and Irlanda fled back to Inadan, the city of the gods. With Art's help, the orphan took the opportunity the predestination gave her and followed them to Inadan. There she discovered that the goddess Irlanda had taken her own life, but was able to pass the test of Tyr and so fulfill the predestination of the Shadow God. At this time, the eternal Wheel of Fate was not known to her. This existed long before the gods. The rise of the Shadow God is predetermined, just as their fall. Fate ensures that special mages become gods and rule the world. Then a human Tel Imalthad comes to overthrow the gods again, but a final rule by the Shadow God is not foreseen. She too must fall again, and quickly, so the messengers of fate can put the world back into its original state, into a time before any kinds of gods. It is the eternal cycle of the worlds. The only purpose of the Shadow God is the deposition of gods. This predestination was written long before the people. Maybe it even existed before the creation. Maybe the creation only exists to offer a place, an arena, in which the different powers are to take on each other. But why? Why the predestination? We do not know the answer, we can only speculate. The imagination of man is too limited, perhaps. Maybe we are all just a means of entertainment for a higher power. A game between two powers. The orphan avoided her downfall by destroying the predestination. She threw it into the maelstrom of the great sanctum underneath Inadan. The predestination was flung from the world, somewhere into the magical storms, and from then on has been existing in a place beyond space and time. Thus, the validity of fate was overruled, and the orphan was able to defeat the messenger of fate, Sarantha, who normally destroyed the shadow gods. By destroying the predestination, however, the orphan lost her special power as a shadow god. The only thing remaining, her natural immortality. Neither disease nor age can hurt her. For the shadow god, an unnatural cause of death is predetermined, and the orphan avoided this by conquering fate. Fate has been overcome, no longer appropriate. We have defied it. Our world has defied it. Never again will a god rule over Nehrim. The people shall, whether that is good or not. Won't they? The eternal wheel of fate seems to be still, but will it really be forever? Time has no meaning for creation, as well as everything that mortals can do. They are just ants in a never-ending ocean of tides. If there really are higher powers that created fate, why did they not stop us? Or did they, without us knowing? Have we perhaps only reached the next sphere of predestination? Time will show us. One thing is certain, it always continues.